Hi everybody, my name is Ori Winokur. I'm the head of music at Artlist. I'm very happy to be here and present to this incredible community of musicians. And I want to thank Fiverr for inviting me. So today I'm going to explain a little bit about Artlist, which is a pretty revolutionary music licensing platform that's kind of changing the game in our little industry, or pretty big industry called music. So we're also going to dive back a little bit into music licensing history, past to present, to understand how we came to where we are today. And finally, of course, I'll introduce a more in-depth view of Artlist music. First, a few short words about myself. I've been an independent musician all my life. I had a recording studio in Tel Aviv and produced some of the most, I guess, prominent artists here in the local indie scene. And I joined Artlist 3 years ago to establish Artlist Original, that became our in-house music team. And a year ago I was promoted to head of music, so today I'm in charge of everything that has to do with music in Artlist, which you'll soon see is a very dominant part of what we do. So let's dive right in. So first, Artlist is a provider of cutting-edge creative tool and assets for all creators around the world. And our mission is to empower creators to create without limits, wherever they are, whatever they want to do. And I think soon you'll understand how we achieve this. But before I go on, I want you to see this short video, which I think gives a great presentation.
We're the creators. This is our choice. We wake up for this.
There's dirt on my hands.
We barely sleep for this.
Strong like a tree.
We fight for our vision.
That's where I stand. Oh, I've been running.
We laugh, hate, love, forgive.
Hope they won't shoot.
We change and then change again.
Try to catch me howling at the moon.
This is us. Free to create anything. Artlist, made for creators. Start now and find the perfect song for your next video.
Yes, so this is us, as you see. We're part of this amazing thing called the creator economy, which is up and coming, and I guess you're also part of it. Just to give you a short overview on Artlist history, and then we'll start the presentation. So Artlist was founded in 2016, and it all started from a music catalog, which we'll soon expand on. 2 years later, we raised our first funds from Elephant Capital. In 2019, we established and launched a footage catalog with a very similar model to how we do music licensing. We also do footage licensing called ArtGrid. And 2 years ago, we acquired Motion Array, which is an incredible marketplace for video creators. And our latest acquisition is the UK-based FX Home, which is a great software company for video editors. So I think you can see we started from music and we're slowly becoming like a one-stop shop solution for all creators. But of course, we are here to discuss music, which is what I do and what you guys do. So first, to be able to discuss this and everything that we do in music licensing in 2022, let's just, roll back to make sure we're all on the same page. So copyrights, what is it all about? So copyright basically just means the right to copy. It actually took me 20 years of being in the music industry to understand that if you flip it, that's what it means. It's the right to copy. And it all started even in the days of sheet music, because in order to reproduce music, it had to be copied. So copyrights were established all the way back then, so original writers could maintain their ownership of the music they did. So every time a song is being placed in any kind of other art form, whether it's a movie soundtrack or TV soundtrack, social media soundtrack, commercial advertising, podcasts, video games, or theater, and of course you can keep on going. That's what's called music licensing, because we sync the song to a new art form. And in this situation, the owner of the music copyright needs to grant a license to use the music as a soundtrack for the new work. So we are here to talk about music licensing, but just to make sure we're all on the same page, video without music is, well, pretty awkward. This is a great example of how a Mick Jagger and David Bowie song was stripped down from the music. And if you look on the video, it's kind of awkward, right? It just goes to prove a point that music is a very, very important part of video making in general. And soon we'll see why is this very, very important for the conclusions we're going to have in this discussion. So before we start about talking about today's age of music licensing, let's take a moment to review how it all started. So back in the 50s, the early days of recorded media, whether it was music or film, if you think about it, it was the first time things were ever recorded and reproduced to be consumed. So back then, both sides were controlled by three big companies. So in music, we had Sony, Warner, and Universal dominating the market. In many ways, they still do up to today. And if you were looking at the film industry, well, it's not a big surprise. It was Universal, Sony, and Warner that dominated the film industry. This is very important to understand because sync and music licensing basically started with big companies making movies, and when they needed a score or a soundtrack, they could use either their own catalog or they had their own production house to produce an original score. Or in case they wanted a very specific song, it was normally something that had a big meaning to it. For example, this is one of the biggest sync deals ever made to that day. It was when Nike used Revolution by the Beatles for 30 seconds. You can see a bit of this commercial here.
Enjoy the show.
Do something. Anything.
You say you want a revolution. Well, you know, we all want to change the world.
As you can see, Nike paid $500,000 for these 30 seconds of this specific song. The important thing to note here is that, again, big companies either had their own kind of infrastructure to produce music or they wanted a very specific song. This is important to note because the sync and licensing industry started from very, very big amounts of money. It either cost a lot to produce a well-recorded soundtrack or it cost a lot to license a famous song. But with the digital revolution that we're all very, very happy about, I guess, smaller companies starting to make smaller content, right? So when that started happening, new companies came to the industry and offered licensing for down to $1 per song. But the problem was, it also sounded very cheap. Here is a good example of cheap music. So today we live in a world where anybody can make music and video anywhere, right? You can be on your laptop wherever you want to be and create, publish, distribute, monetize, do the whole thing from wherever you are. And we're living in a world where so much new content is being released every day. But let's take a second to compare what's happening in the audio streaming world to the video streaming world. So every day, between 40 to 60,000 new tracks are released to the streaming services such as Spotify and Apple Music. But over 700 hours of video are released to YouTube alone every minute. And I'm not even talking about TikTok or other platforms, which could be very, very dominant, of course. If you compare the runtime of these two aspects of our ecosystem, you can see the difference. It's an enormous difference. And if you remember what we just discussed, most videos have music as their soundtrack. So if you think about it, more music is being re-released on YouTube than in streaming platforms. And this is a major important thing to note for the next stages of our presentation, because soon you'll see how it takes action. So let's discuss YouTube. YouTube is basically the first ever social video platform. This is the first video ever uploaded to YouTube.
All right, so here we are.
And
one of the
point here is that it just goes to show
guys.
that YouTube was built as a social platform. It all started from the need of people to share videos which were too heavy to send over emails. And why is this so important? Because it started as social, so there was no money involved and people just uploaded any video they wanted, right? But what happened was, it very quickly, in a matter of a few years, it became the biggest broadcaster in the world. These numbers are actually even out of date, but you can see the amount of people watching and consuming YouTube on a daily basis is absolutely insane. There's no comparison to it. I think only TikTok today is starting to be as big, but definitely no TV or any kind of standard broadcaster reaches these numbers. And of course, where there are a lot of people, there's also a lot of ways to make money, right? So in 2007, YouTube decided to start advertising on YouTube. And of course, it's advertisement heaven because there's a lot of targeted audience. You know what people like, what they're looking for, and so on. So how much money is involved in this YouTube commercial and advertisement industry? So as you can see, it's a very fast growing, and the bottom line, it's a lot of money. If you notice here, you see this is in billion of US dollars, and it's only up to 2018. So this is over $100 billion market per year, and it's one of the biggest advertising markets in the world. And why is this so important to us musicians? Because when this happened, all the big labels in 2007 came and demanded their share, because up to that point when YouTube was just a social platform, nobody cared if you wanted to post yourself dancing with your cat with the Michael Jackson song in the background. But once somebody was making money off of it and YouTube was making money off of it, then the copyright owners, remember those copyright owners that needs to grant a license to use, then they came in and said, where is my money? And when this happened in 2007, this was a few years after the big Napster story, which is important for me to note here, and also give you a warm recommendation to watch this great film about Napster, because I think it tells a lot about where we are today in the music industry. And what happened with Napster is the big labels or copyright owners, when this new technology and new platform came, they didn't know how to handle it. So they basically tried to tear it down and break it apart. And unfortunately, it didn't work. Or maybe fortunately, it didn't work for them and they lost. And Napster was actually disbanded, but the actual fact of people downloading music on the internet or streaming music across the internet became a fact and a common sense for all the new generation of people or music lovers. So when YouTube came in 2007 with the advertising market, the labels were smarter and they didn't try to attack YouTube, but they said you have to find a solution to your copyright problem on your platform. And that's when YouTube launched Content ID, which I'm not sure if all of you are familiar with, but it's, I think, something every musician today needs to know about. So I please ask you to take 3 minutes to watch this great demonstration that YouTube made, because I think it explains the best what Content ID is. And after, of course, I'll connect it to why we're doing what we're doing.
At YouTube, our goal is to give everyone a voice and show them the world. Part of building a platform that works for everyone is making sure we have sophisticated content management tools that help content owners manage and protect their works. That's where Content ID comes in. Nearly all content claims on YouTube take place through Content ID. So, what is it? Content ID is YouTube's unique software system that was built to help content owners find copies of their work on YouTube. Content ID also gives them options beyond taking down copies, which in turn allows YouTube creators around the world to share creative ideas through fan videos that may include others' original content. Here's how Content ID works. First, content owners give us audio or visual reference files that identify their works. Our Content ID database creates what is known as a fingerprint from these files. We keep these fingerprints in a database of hundreds of years of audio and visual content. Content ID scans videos on YouTube against these fingerprints to see if there's a match. Thanks to these fingerprints, Content ID can recognize audio, video, and even melodies when they've been covered or imitated. When the system finds a match between the audio or visual reference files and a video on YouTube, the content owner has 3 options. They can block the video that matched their content, they can monetize the video, or they can track viewer data to get detailed analytics, such as countries where their content is popular. To date, content owners have claimed hundreds of millions of videos through Content ID. More often than not, content owners choose to earn revenue from the ads run against claimed videos. As a result, Content ID has paid out billions of dollars in revenue to content owners since it was first created in 2007. Making sure Content ID is working for everyone is really important to us. So we've invested over $100 million in building the system and are constantly improving it. We've also worked hard to make the system fair for creators. That's why we've made it easy for creators to dispute claims when they believe they're made in error. If the claim does turn out to be invalid, the creator won't lose out. Any revenue earned during the dispute process is held separately, then released to the appropriate party once the dispute is resolved. Plus, the Content ID system means that most content owners rely less on the notice and takedown process, although they may still choose to issue takedown notices to remove individual videos. With Content ID, YouTube gives content owners scalable tools that allow them to thrive from distributing their work online, while maintaining an open platform where all video creators can share their creativity.
Solution for copyright management in our age, which is an age of so much content being released that no human being could have processed or managed it. And to this day, YouTube is the only platform or digital video platform with this kind of system in full operational situation. And that's a big deal. And now you'll understand why is this part of the Artlist story. So when YouTube launched Content ID, millions of content makers that got used to share on this social video platform got stuck without a music license because Content ID blocked all their unlicensed music usage. And into this ecosystem came Artlist about 7 years ago. And let's see what was the big deal. So when Artlist came in, the old content licensing industry was built for an audience with access to capital and legal counsel. Remember Sony, Warner, Universal, so on. It was a big league game, right? So with tens of millions of new content creators creating more than ever, the industry needed to be democratized. So important to note that content creators is one of the biggest emerging new economies of our century, and there are every year millions of new content creators starting their journey. And so what Artlist brought to this new generation of creators, if you take a second to view this chart, so if in the old days, you could either have low quality music with a pretty simple and cheap license. You still had to buy it like per track, like direct license per track. So it was cheap, but it sounded cheap. And the license was also very simple and narrow, meaning you couldn't use it anywhere. Or you could have a higher quality license, but it would cost you a lot more. It would be much more complicated to license. You would need lawyers to do that. And also that was still per song, per license, per use, so it was direct licensing. If you take a look on what Artlist brought in, so it's high quality assets and music, which you'll soon hear and see for yourself. The license is very simple and broad. It's not expensive, as you'll see in a second. It's a yearly based subscription. We have a lot of curation that we do behind the scenes, so you'll see that as well, that we provide a great solution to find the music. And the subscription is unlimited, so people can just use the music in our catalog without worrying about where it's going to be broadcasted and if they pay the license for that kind of use or the other. So to sum it all up, our main strengths are that we have one license that covers everything. So once you're subscribed to Artlist, you can use any song in our catalog, in any kind of video, anywhere in the world. And if you think about it, all these video platforms changed everything, right? So everything is global. So this is also the first global license available for music. It's very affordable. Our standard plan is like $200 a year. We just launched a monthly plan, which is about $9 a month. So it's all a great price for what you get. The whole site is built, or platform is built like a tool for the content creators, and I urge you to take a second look for yourself. It's all free to view, Artlist. It's totally open. You can listen and see everything. We built everything as a tool to quickly find what you're looking for. And the quality of our music is very, very high. We source it all from real musicians, just like yourself, and you'll see that in a second when we dial in to the music side of things. So today our offering, as we saw in the beginning, consists of 3 different asset platforms. On Artlist, we have music and sound effects. On ArtGrid, we have footage. On Motion Arrays, like an open marketplace for video template, plugins, and more. And now we're starting to integrate tools into our offering, which is slowly becoming an end-to-end platform for creators. Our users, we have over 17 million registered users across our platforms from across the world. It's really kind of fully global. We're serving all types of content creators, and this is also a very interesting part because Artlist was established for what you call the YouTube generation or the creator economy. But we are very proud and happy to say that most of the biggest brands and influencers in the world are using Artlist because they're attracted to the quality and the service. So our music is placed in some of the biggest commercials by the biggest brands. I think almost every big influencer on YouTube uses our music. Our music got to Netflix, to a lot of TV series, film, anything you can imagine on the more standard sync world. And we also have a lot of enterprise deals where we license for in-app use, such as Splice Video. So we have a very broad distribution. Here you can see a name drop of all the brands that are using Artlist as an example, or some of the brands. You can see it's the biggest names out there. And again, we're very proud because the service wasn't built for big brands, but they came because they liked it. And now we're, of course, here to talk about music. So let's deep dive into it. So Artlist Original, which I was very lucky and happy to establish about 3 years ago, is our own in-house music production team. We have a global community of producers, composers, performers, singers, and songwriters really from all over the world. Already over 300 different artists on Artlist Original. We're producing what I think is the highest quality of songs in the music licensing industry, and we are really working very hard to maintain a high production quality standard. We're creating over 1,000 songs a year today and keep growing. And we vary on all styles of music. So it could be anything from live big band recordings to trap tracks. And really, it's, I think, the most eclectic music label you'll ever find, probably, because we're serving so many different customers from so many different places on earth, making so many different kinds of videos. So they all need different soundtracks and anything goes. It's really an interesting point. And we also are very happy to say we built a fully operational record label for digital distribution and a publishing entity, very similar to the infrastructure major label has for managing all the copyrights and publishing side of things. And today our artists community enjoys a pretty incredible service where we distribute everything. We collect all the royalties. We help them collect their share of the royalties as well. And we are also very artist focused, very trying to get the best term for our musicians. A little bit about our roster. Like I said, it really comes from really across the world. As you can see here, we have musicians from the US, from India, from Jamaica, from South Korea. It's like really incredible to see. And to kind of break down what the model looks like. So it's first of all a work for hire model, meaning every artist that works with us gets paid a fee for what they do. And that's like an upfront payment. It's not recoupable. We first believe that any musician is supposed to make a living for their art. So that's the first thing we do. Our commitment is only per track, so we never commit an artist to do anything beyond a specific project or song we decided to do together. So there's no like old school 360 commitment kind of thing. We take care of everything around the production side and the release side of things, but the artists still get 50% of distribution of streaming royalties, and they retain the writer's share and receive royalties that are distributed by their PRO. Our original team, as I said, provides the entire infrastructure for everything like you see here. So it's both on the release side at the end, which is distribution and publishing and copyright management, but we also take care of the entire production process. We're sending out briefs for every song we do. We have a dedicated content leader that acts as some sort of a co-advisor on the music production process. We have an audio team doing all the mix and mastering for everything, a design team doing the covers. We have a team devoted to do all the payments, contracts, metadata collection, and all these things. So everything is really, really well taken care of, and musicians are hired to make music, which is what they love doing. I guess the most interesting thing and the center of this discussion is something I discovered after we started doing what we do, which is a very interesting thing we see happening across our newly formed digital music ecosystem. So as we discussed before, our ecosystem consists of two sides. We have the digital streaming platforms, which for me is like the new age of record stores, is where people go to consume music. And on the other side, we have all the UGC platforms where people, independent video creators, upload videos every day, all the time, just like we saw. Like we said before, the amounts are incredible. Of the amounts of content being delivered every day or posted every day is almost hard to grasp, I guess. And Artlist is basically right there in between, because we source music from independent musicians. We also distribute the music to streaming platforms, but we license it for all these UGC users. The interesting thing we discovered is that this circle has a way to loop. And that loop is being done by Shazam, because what happens, and something that we see a lot of times happening, is that songs are getting placed on viral videos, and people Shazam the songs that they hear on the video, and they reach the artist profile on streaming service. So we call this the Artlist effect, because we're seeing this loop driving streams and followers for our entire roster of artists. To give you like a real life example of it, these guys that you see in these pictures are We Are the Good, an incredible artist signed to our label. The interesting thing about their story is when they started off, they had no release out. So their first release was with us, with Artlist Original, in the beginning of 2021. And the numbers you're going to see here are what happened to them in 1 year, in 2021 only, with no music promotion, no marketing efforts, not from our side or from their side, only from this loop, or magic loop as we call it, the Artlist effect. So We Are the Good had 150,000 downloads from Artlist in 2021, which resulted in at least 30,000 song placements on YouTube alone, which we know about. I think there's a lot more out there on other platforms, but that's what we know about. 30,000 placements is a lot, as you can understand. It resulted in an average of 40,000 Shazams per track, and they closed the year with over 3 million streams on Spotify alone, and were even selected to the best R&B playlist of 2021 by Spotify. And as I said, this is all absolutely organic. Their songs did very well on our platform, and the video uses kind of drove their streaming profile to a point that today they have tens of thousands of followers and a constantly growing profile in the music industry side of things. So that's a very interesting thing. And just, as we say in Hebrew, a picture is worth more than 1,000 words, and a video is probably worth more than 1,000,000. So I'm lucky enough to be able to show you this video we just released. And this is about Wes. He's part of We Are the Good, and also about how we found him on SoundBetter, which is a great marketplace platform for musicians, but also shows the Artlist effect in action. So enjoy.
Stop that. Yeah, I hear him shots in the noise. Move too quick, can't stop for the talking. Yeah, I got a few tricks up in the sleeve. One wrong move, I'ma let out the loud.
Hey Wes, I checked your profile on SoundBetter and absolutely loved what we heard, and I'd love to get you on board with Artlist.
Wow, that'd be awesome. Yeah, I'm familiar with Artlist. You guys are doing some crazy things.
So let's make it happen.
All right, let's do it. Let's get it.
Marker. I became a full-time songwriter about 5 years ago. I got on Sound Better, kind of just wanted to see what was gonna happen. When Artlist hit me up, they were just kind of looking for another like American kind of rapper. Didn't realize that Artlist was already kind of building this huge ecosystem and kind of platform that people were tapping into, and it just took off.
Stop that. I hear him chat to the noise. Can't stop for the talking. I hear him chat with the boys. Nice keep walking, yeah. Just too sharp with the prize. They'll tell me I'm awesome, yeah.
So like, imagine that your song is getting put in all of these videos, and then you look at the numbers and there's over 200 million views. So it's amazing to wake up one morning and you go from 0 monthly listeners on Spotify to over 70,000 in like a week. Like, who does that? It just feels exciting, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Oh,
man, we got this, bro. That's what we do, man. Come on. We are in a completely different game where there's all of these tools that are available to the indie artists now. Kids can be at home and literally create music, and with the right people involved, your song can end up on television. I can do this.
Sometimes the silver lining don't look quite silver.
What's so dope about platforms like Sound Better and Artlist is now I can be a full-time musician, I can feed my family, I can do what I love, and I never have to leave my house. I can just focus on the music. Like, what's better than that?
Keep your head up, baby girl, it gets better. And even if it don't, I'll be right here telling you life goes on.
Artlist is here, and we're paying millions of dollars to artists worldwide. And we're empowering and hope to keep powering the future of content creation. And I hope this presentation was helpful for you, and I wish you the best of luck in your career. And if you want to approach us, you can always apply through our website, and you're welcome to do so. And all the best of luck and the best of music. Thank you very much.